10 p.m., but we'll be done in 90 minutes, okay? Is that all right? 90 minutes of lots of good stuff. So hopefully you got a pen and take notes. Very happy to have Lior. He manages our San Diego office here in California. So that's Lior, been in the business a long time, very bright. He's specialist in tax planning as well. So we're going to cover the 5 pillars, right? You've all got this 5 pillars. You can take notes on that. You've probably got an extra sheet of paper, but every pillar affects the other pillar. For example, if you take income from an IRA, it's going to affect your taxes, right? So you want to make sure that everything you do, from the investment world to the estate planning to turning on Social Security, all works together cohesively. It's not about a rate of return. It's not about how much I make on my stocks and my bonds. It's what do I make and keep after tax, right? It's always about after tax. For example, if you take $1 from Social Security, they send you a check, you retire, or you take $1 from an IRA, which dollar buys more stuff? The Social Security dollar or the IRA dollar? Which dollar is a bigger dollar when you go to the dollar store? There's no such thing, is there? The Social Security dollar is a bigger dollar because it's never 100% taxable. But the IRA dollar is always 100% taxable. So when you retire and you work on your income plan, the income plan is made up of, where am I going to take money from? My pension? Am I going to take money from Social Security? Am I going to take money from my IRA, from my annuity, my savings? What's the best plan? So if I can get more money after tax from Social Security and I retire, what if I delayed Social Security a few years and took money out of my IRA? Does that make sense? Because every year I delay Social Security, they're going to give me more next year. How much more?
5%.
8%.
Or 8%.
Plus inflation. So every year I delay Social Security, I'm going to get 8% more plus inflation, guaranteed. Do I get 8% return in my 401k every year?
No.
No, sometimes I lose 8%, right?
Right.
So maybe, just maybe, my income plan might say delay Social Security a few years, get a bigger dollar from Social Security, pay less tax, meanwhile spend some of my IRA and my 401k. That might be how an income plan looks. Does that make sense? So today, when you get home, start working on your income plan. Where am I going to take money from? Do I have real estate? Do I have an IRA? Do I have 401k, Social Security, pension? And start prioritizing where you think you should start your income from early in retirement. And what should you do later on in retirement? And if you need help building a plan, we can help you with that, okay? So that's the income plan. The tax plan is all about, again, putting everything together. When should I convert IRAs to Roth IRAs? Anybody done that yet? I converted all my IRAs in 2022. I paid 35% tax to do it. Now, I don't recommend you do that, but I recommend that you pay 10% tax to do it, 12% tax, maybe 22% tax. Who believes tax rates are going to go down in a couple years?
No.
Who believes they're going to go up? And who is never going to raise your hand? Yeah, believe taxes are going to go up for a number of reasons. Why? Does anyone know what's going to happen in 2026? The current tax law expires January 1st of 2026. So, if Congress does what they're really good at doing, which is nothing, old law goes away. Sorry, new law goes away and old law comes back. Every tax bracket goes up. Every standard deduction goes down. You'll have people in the 12% bracket on December 31st. They'll wake up in the 22% tax bracket the next day. So you've got all of 2024 and all of 2025 to figure out how to not get hurt when 2026 happens. Part of that strategy could be converting IRAs to Roth IRAs. You know, a lot of people that come to this class, or people that are referred to our office, when they come in and see us, they got a big bucket of money. And what do you think's in that big bucket of money? It's full of IRAs and 401k. Because that's what they did every paycheck. They put money in their 401k, and rightly so. But when they touch that money, it's all taxable, right?
Right.
And then they have a little bit of money in an investment account that earns interest, dividends, and capital gains. A taxable account, right? Maybe a CD, mutual fund. You got a little bit of money there. And then they have very little money in a Roth IRA because they never put money in the Roth IRA. Does that make sense? What if you could take all the money in the IRA, or most of it, and put it in the Roth and just leave a little bit behind in the IRA? Can you do that? That's called a Roth conversion. If you do that a little bit at a time or all at once, whatever the best scenario is for you, after it's done, you'll never pay tax again in retirement, most likely. So the key is, should I leave my money in the IRA, tax deferred, or should I start converting IRAs to Roth IRAs? The answer in this room is everyone's have a different answer. You should convert your IRAs to Roths if you have the right reason, the right time, and you should do the right amount. The right amount. There's a perfect amount for everyone to convert to Roth. It's different for everyone. You need to find out what that amount is. There's a great term that Lior talks about when he talks to our clients. He talks about tax bracket topping. If you're in the 12% bracket today, you should top it up to the top of the 12 with a Roth conversion. If you think rates are going to go higher. If you think tax rates are going higher, top your bracket up with a conversion. If you're in the 22% bracket, top it up to the top of the 22% with a Roth conversion. If you're in the 24%, top it up to the top of the 24%, because guess what? The 24% is going to be 28 shortly. Does that make sense? Pay me now or pay me later. Everyone can convert any age, any amount, at any income level, at any time. There's no rules. They're all gone. There's only one rule. Pay the tax on what you convert.
Yeah.
I know what the tax rate is today. I do not know what it's going to be like in 5 years. I would expect it's going to be higher. Did you have a question at the back?
Yeah, what is the income for 12% tax rate?
A married couple, 125,000. Single couple, single person, about 60.
Okay.
That's 12%. Anything above that starts to go into 22, 24. 24% bracket goes up to about $370,000. We have clients that convert $350,000 a year. 3 years later, they've converted $1 million at 24%, and they'll never pay tax on that again. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you to think about it. Start asking these kind of questions.
Will we know as we get closer to 2026 what they're gonna do, like the year before?
We don't know for sure, but I tell you, if Congress does nothing, it happens. It's over.
Has it happened before?
Yeah, things expire and Congress doesn't do anything, it just goes back to the law. Yeah, for sure. What's the difference between the government and the mafia? The mafia is organized. Government, not so much, right? See, they're not organized, it'll be what it'll be. So, your income plan has to fit your tax plan. At the end of class, so we're gonna talk about investing, we're gonna talk about risk, we're gonna talk about IRAs and 401ks, and we're gonna talk about investments and long-term care and annuities and all that good stuff. The very last two topics are Social Security timing. When do you take Social Security and how do you not pay tax on it? And the very last section tonight, Lior is gonna help me with showing you how to go from a 22% tax bracket to a 12% tax bracket to zero tax. We're gonna finish off with that. So we're gonna close the class with that idea. I think it's pretty powerful. So let's go through some things. Cash flow in retirement, you're creating your income plan, where you're gonna take money from each month, and how does that change throughout the years? Very important. But almost just as important is your investment plan, your risk plan. If you lose half your money in a stock market crash, it really doesn't matter what your tax plan did, you just lost half your money. Does that make sense? So your investment plan, your risk plan is almost just as important as the tax plan. Who here today is already retired? Okay, who's gonna retire in the next 1 to 2 years? And 2 to 5 years? who's never gonna retire. Okay, so if you're retiring in the next couple, 3 years, or you're already retired, you really need to pay attention to the investment risk. Because when you're 30 years old and 40 years old, putting money in your 401k, there's no risk to that. Every month, every paycheck, right? You're just buying all the time. You're 30 years old, you're 40 years old. You should be all equities, all stocks, no bonds, no balance funds, no target funds. If you have a target fund in your 401k, it's probably performing the worst amount in there. So be careful of target funds because they're overweighted with bonds. Now, as you get closer to retirement, you should start looking at the risk. You shouldn't leave the whole $1 million 401k all in the stock market because you're going to retire soon. Does that make sense? You're going to start spending that money. So you want to be aware of different risks out there. And let's cover a few. First is interest rates. Anybody get a mortgage in 1982, 1984, 1988? What was your mortgage rate? Do you remember?
Probably 18%.
Yeah, very, very high. I got an 11% mortgage in 1988. I thought it was pretty good. CD rates were 9%.
Yeah. Right.
And I got into this business and I had no money, but I would tell people, I'd say, why don't you go buy a CD at 9%? Guess what they said? Well, no, I'll wait till rates go back to 10. Isn't that interesting, right? Well, interest rates went down for 30 years, 1984. And then when interest rates go down, bonds go up. So bonds did great for the period of time that interest rates were going down. And then in about, 2006, 2005, interest rates did what? Did nothing. 0, 1%. CD rates were CDs, right? Certificates of disappointment, right? Didn't make anything. And so bonds are no good when interest rates are low, but they're even worse when interest rates go up. And what has happened over the last 12 months? Interest rates have gone up. And so bonds have gone down in value. Not only did you earn interest, but you lost money. So if interest rates are going up, you want to stay away from bonds. Now, if interest rates go back down, bonds will go back up. But what else goes up when interest rates go down? Stocks. If interest rates go down, the stock market's going to go through the roof. A lot more than bonds. So I would still not have bonds even today. Now, if I hold a bond until it matures, I'm okay. Right? If interest rates go up and I hold the bond till much, I'm fine, right? But most people don't buy an individual bond, they buy what? A bond fund, a target fund. That has no maturity date. As Lior says, you just lose money slowly. So be careful of bond funds, target funds. Ladies in the room, what's the difference between a bond and your husband? The bond matures. Right? So be aware of what interest rates are doing and how that affects your investments. What other risks are there? Political turmoil. I'm from Canada. We only have political turmoil in Canada, not in the United States, right? No big deal here. Sequence of return risk. That's an interesting one. Those of you that are still working, you're putting money in your 401k. If you've got 5 years before you retire, you want to do something called dollar cost averaging. You know what that is, right? That's where you're dollar cost averaging. You're buying into the stock market every 2 weeks, your paycheck. So you actually want the stock market to go down. You want it to go down because you're buying all the time. You're getting a better price. You just want the stock market to come back before you retire. If it evens out, you've made a lot of money. That's because you're buying all the time. But if you're retired, you're not buying all the time, you're doing what? You're selling all the time, every month, to live on your money. If the stock market goes down, you lose money. You lose money because you're selling. And because you've spent the money, it's no longer there to come back. So that risk is called the sequence of return risk. You can't foretell what the sequence of the stock market's going to be because it might go up. You don't know if it's going to go up or down, right? So here's an example. Steve retired in 1990 with $450,000, and he took $30,000 out of his account every year for 10 years. And at the end of the 10 years, he's got 1.2 million. Why? S&P 500 had the best sequence. That decade was amazing. He didn't know it was going to be amazing. He got lucky. The sequence was great. Now his brother Bill retired in 2000 with the same amount of money, took the same $30,000 out, and at the end of that 10 years, he's almost out of money. Why? The sequence was bad. That stock market decade had 5 negatives in it. So the key is you have to make sure your portfolio is built to never have this problem when you're retired. This problem doesn't exist for those that are still working, right? Just for those that are spending some of their money. The sequence of return risk, you have to have your portfolio built in such a way that you never have this problem. So here's the answer. If you have a certain amount of money in green and red money, you can beat this risk. It de-risks your portfolio. So green money is safe money. I'll give you an example of green money. A CD at the bank, right? 4% interest. A bond that you keep until it matures. A fixed annuity that might pay right now 5.5% interest. But you can also buy indexes, stock market indexes that are linked to the index but have no risk. They're insured. So you could buy the S&P 500. If it goes down, you don't lose anything and you don't make anything. But if it goes up, you get a portion of the up. You just don't get it all. Does that make sense? So therefore, I can have safe money in green that will make really good rate of return when the market is good. So that protects me in case the market goes down. That replaces the bonds. I don't need to buy bonds anymore because I have safe money that is 100% guaranteed and safe. That eliminates the bond side. In the stock side, the red side, that's my risk money. That's my red money. That money goes up and down. So if you have the right percentage in green and the right percentage in red, you don't have a stock market risk problem. Here's why. The red money, the stock market money, generally does what? Right? Goes like this. So if you have enough money in green to support your monthly needs, your monthly income, and that green money is going to make good interest, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, we like to have our clients have the green money last them 10 years. So if it lasts them 10 years before they need red money, what have they just done with red? They've bought what? They've bought time. And the stock market, what do you need to make it work? Time. And that allows you to do that. That means you never lose money in the stock market because you're spending out of your green account. Okay, we've got clients this last year made 10% and 11% in their green side. Is that pretty good? No fees, no risk. That's pretty good. The red side did a lot better. Is that right? That's good, right? So that's an example of how to fix that. If I was here tonight and I was working on my risk plan, I would ask myself a couple questions. I would ask myself, what's the maximum loss that I personally would emotionally accept before I'd feel uncomfortable? Anybody ever lose money? Okay, when I was 32 years old, I lost $1 million. Okay, I threw up every day for 2 years. Everything gone. I put a lot of money in something called real estate limited partnerships. I was young, I was a little foolish. I did what my broker dealer told me to do, and they said buy real estate limited partnerships. The general manager remortgaged all the properties and spent all the money. Woke up and found out it was all gone. So I don't like to lose money, so my risk tolerance is less than probably yours. Okay, so I don't ever want to lose 20% again. So how do I build a portfolio to never lose more than 20%? Your number, you should have your own number, right? Right? We should have our own number. What's your number? Write your number down. What is the most you'd be willing to lose? So if you have $1 million and you're okay to lose 20%, that's how much money? $200,000, right? Well, I can get through that. It'll come back probably over time, right? So how much has the stock market gone down historically? The worst. How much has it gone down? What's the most it's gone down? In 2008, it went down about 50%. In 2000, it went down about 50%. 1933, it went down about 50%. 1987 went down about 40%. 2020, COVID, went down 35%. 2022 went down 22%. So will it go down again? 30%, 40%, 50%? Sure. I'll tell you what it's going to do this year, though. Write this down. The stock market is going to go up and down.
Yeah.
So what I do with my portfolio is I say to myself, I'm going to plan that the market's going to go down again. So if I have 60% of my money in green, no risk but good upside, and I have 40% of my money in red, stock market, and the market goes down 50%, how much will I lose on the overall portfolio? 50% of 40 is?
20.
That's my magic number. What's yours? We have a client who's 91 years old. She's got $2 million, and she has it all in red. She says, Leor, Darcy, I don't care. I don't care if I lose 50%, I'm 90. She's got a point, right? Okay, it's her money. I think she's crazy, but if she wants to take that risk, God bless her. And then we have a 60-year-old client who retired, and he said, Leor and Darcy, he said, I had my 401k, and in 2008, it became a 201k. Anybody remember that? He said, I don't ever want to lose money. He said, if you lose $1, I will fire you. So where's all his money? It's all in green. It's all in green. So the right mixture is different for everyone. So I would ask you what your most interest rate you would be willing to lose, and what does that figure to $1? And then I'd also say, what do you think the number should be for you? And this is good homework for you when you get home. Start thinking about how much should I have in stock market risk at my particular stage of life, and how much should I have in something that's more safer, that's still going to earn a decent rate of return. Here's an example of red and green. Since 1998, red money goes up and down, right? And green money, that is an example where you picked the S&P 500 as the index in green, but you had a company insure it. So what they said is, we'll give you half of the up every year and none of the down. If you get half of the up and none of the down, you pretty much are right close to the market. That's an example historically. Now we want our money to last our lifetime, don't we? Right? We had a couple came to one of these classes. It was last month. It was on a Tuesday. They found themselves in our office on a Thursday morning, Roger and Mary. And Roger had done a very good job saving for retirement. Mary kind of let him do that. Roger had his coffee and his cookie in the boardroom, and then he said, I need to go to the restroom. And while he was gone, Mary asked a very good question. Her question was, Leor, do we have enough money to last our lifetime at our current lifestyle? Is that a good question? What a great question. That is the kind of question that we answer, right? So what a great question, because she knows that inflation is very high right now, right? So we have to make sure we beat inflation. What else do we have to beat? Our longevity is very high. If you're 65 years old, you've got a 50% chance, a married couple, of one of you making it to 90. Money's got to last a long time. Statistically, who usually lasts the longest? Women, right? Why do men statistically pass away first? Because they want to. Bad joke, right? All right. So that's a little bit on safe money, a little bit on our investment plan, kind of how we think about things. It should be very simple. It should not be complicated. It shouldn't be all stocks and bonds. It should be securities, yes, stocks and equities, but it should also be something that is safe, that's going to earn a decent rate of return without any risk at all.
Keep what's in the
Yeah, green section could be a CD at the bank, certificate of disappointment. Why do I say that? It's a good rate right now, right? But when that
Yeah.
CD matures in a year, interest rates could go back down. And I gotta settle for 1% again. A bond, that may be 5%, that matures in 5 years maybe. I'm not a big fan of those, but that's an option. A fixed annuity. Fixed annuities are paying 5.5% guaranteed fixed rate right now. I'm not putting my money in a fixed at 5.5 because inflation's more, but that's an option. I would buy an index that's insured through a life insurance company, and those are paying about 10%, some 11, some historically are 12. That's a pretty good rate of return with no risk. Index annuity, index where you're buying a stock market index that's insured through a life insurance company. A couple companies that I like, Nationwide A+ rated, North American is my favorite. They've got the best product on the market today. Our clients crediting right now an 11% return in that one with no fees, A+ rated. So we'll get back to those in just a little bit, but that's a great question. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about some estate planning. So everyone in the room should have a will, right? There's two kinds of wills. One is a public will and one is a private will. A public will has to be proven in court by your beneficiaries, your children. What's that court called?
Probate.
What's the problem with probate? Time and money. Your children are in probate for 18 months. Got to hire a lawyer, it's very expensive. So if you don't like your children, put them through probate. If you like your children, don't do that, right? Make your will a private will. A private will is found inside your revocable living trust. That's the reason people do a trust, is to eliminate probate. There is no tax savings in a trust. There's just the elimination of probate. And the nice thing about trusts, they all usually come with powers of attorneys, like a medical power of attorney, right? If I get in a motorcycle accident and I'm in the hospital, I'm in a coma, and the doctor says, hey, he's gonna be okay, we need to administer some medical attention, my wife can make a decision for me. I've given that medical power of attorney. Does that make sense? If I'm in the hospital with a motorcycle accident and the doctor says, look, he's dead, two doctors say he's not alive anymore, what happens? My living will says to pull the plug. It does not ask my wife to make a decision. It simply says pull the plug. I don't want my wife having to make that decision. And then of course there's a durable power of attorney. If I'm in San Diego and my wife is back in Phoenix and she goes to the bank and the banker says we need to sign something, she can sign on my behalf. We have a durable power of attorney. Those are important documents in retirement, wouldn't you say? So they're all included in the trust. So a trust is a great way to eliminate probate. Okay. I'm sure most of you have a trust, right? Most people that come to class have already gone to another class and got a trust, so that's good. Now, so we're talking about elimination of probate. Can you eliminate probate without a trust? Yeah, you can put your children's names on everything as a contingent beneficiary. So spouse is a joint owner of everything, right? Or spouse could be a beneficiary of something, and then children could be the contingent beneficiaries. That beneficiary designation eliminates probate. How much does it cost to put a beneficiary on everything you own?
None.
Close to zero. So what assets should you put in a trust? Well, let me back up. Beneficiary designation can go on a bank account, right? Called payable on death. Brokerage account, transfer on death. IRA, contingent beneficiary. Roth IRA, beneficiary. Life insurance, beneficiary. What about real estate? Real estate, a beneficiary deed recorded at the county. That eliminates probate. Leor, what's the cost of a beneficiary deed to record?
We just did one and it was about $135.
So $135 to record a beneficiary deed, is that worth it?
Yeah.
Sure beats paying $5,000 for a trust, right? Now, I personally, my wife and I, we've done hundreds and hundreds of trusts for clients with lawyers, and we know what we're doing, but we hired a lawyer to do our trust, because sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So we felt it was prudent to pay money and get a trust. Now, if you have a trust, should you put everything in the trust? Most lawyers will tell you, spend $5,000 on a trust and then put everything in it. Retitle all the assets to the trust. We would say that's close, but not everything should go in the trust because of our tax plan. See, lawyers are not accountants and accountants are not lawyers. So let me explain. All the money that you have that grows tax deferred should not be in the trust. What money grows tax deferred?